Toronto FC still in search of a new head coach, but Steve Simmons, a sports writer with The Sun, recently wrote an article and, quote, he said, Toronto FC needs more than a new coach. It needs a lineup with more life and more from Michael Bradley and Jozy Altidore, or say goodbye to them. Gareth, what is the bigger concern for TFC? The coaching search or the current roster?
First off, I don't go to the weather guy for stock tips. I don't ask the mailman to give my car an oil change. I don't go to Steve Simmons for soccer opinion either. I love Steve, great guy. He doesn't care about soccer. He doesn't know about the game. He watched one match against Nashville where they bowed out in not a good way, and he comes up with this one line that he throws in right at the bottom of a column that he writes. It's not fair. It's not proper analysis. The club needs to focus on getting the right head coach in, someone that can take this team forward. It's a massive decision for the club. I think it's a little bit disrespectful to both Michael Bradley and Jozy Altidore, two players that turned Toronto FC into a perennial winner. This Toronto FC side this season had the second most points in all of Major League Soccer. Bradley suffered 2 significant injuries, and yes, of course, Altidore needs to score more than 2 goals, but it's more than that. Toronto FC are going to have a designated player spot opened up. They're going to need to fill that. They're going to need a left back. They're going to need at least one new center back. Look, there's a number of moving parts here with this Toronto FC team, and just throwing out a flippant comment like that, it's not fair. And picking on the 2 players that happen to be the biggest names in Toronto FC, it's very apparent. It's low-hanging fruit for a guy that simply doesn't really care about the team or care to know much more about them.
Yeah, I think in defense of Steve Simmons here, you know, we often talk about wanting more coverage of Canadian soccer. And so I understand that there may not be in-depth analysis, but I think it's a point that a reasonable point that can be made. Like, I think if anything, people are maybe tiptoe a little bit around Michael Bradley and Jozy Altidore and being a bit more honest about the situation and the potential problem that Toronto FC are in with those 2 contracts might not be such a bad thing. And that's why I do think that the roster is probably a bigger issue for whoever comes in as Toronto FC head coach than the selection of the head coach in itself. I think we're in a situation now where we have to appreciate that Michael Bradley and Jozy Altidore, I'm not saying that they can't still be important players to this Toronto FC team, but they might not be. Altidore's been injured at key times of year 2 seasons in a row, and Michael Bradley isn't getting any younger, and there are other options in the midfield. So whoever comes in as head coach is going to have to be, I think, a big personality to have the kind of weight about them to be able to say no to those players sometimes. And that is why I wouldn't be surprised if we do see TFC, as rumoured, go down the route of someone like Patrick Vieira, someone like Laurent Blanc, who can make what I think are going to be very, very difficult decisions around what are obviously club legends.
For what it's worth, the number that Jozy Altidore is making as his contract moves forward, I'm told it's significantly lower than what people actually believe what it is. So there will be a decision about Jozy Altidore, but it's not the only one. And Michael Bradley isn't done. He's a player that's continually picked on, underrated, disregarded. He's huge for the fabric of Toronto FC, both on and off the field. And he's not a DP anymore. He's a TAM player. So some perspective is required.
Still pricey.